Hey guys, welcome back to my second channel. I'm normally Blaire White, and today I'm Blaire Black. Make sure you subscribe to both. So first of all, I'm officially that tacky person that has their Christmas tree up halfway through January. It is what? The 12th, and it's still up. But I'm gonna blame my fiance for this one because he is working constantly. He has no time to haul this thing down, although he should make time because I'm not carrying this thing down my building by myself. It's not happening. Anyways, today's video is on a topic that I'm really not the biggest fan of. And the reason I'm not the biggest fan of it is that it's simply so subjective. Today, we're gonna talk about passing as a trans woman. Now, if you don't know what passing means, passing is a term we use in the trans community, which is basically, you know, if you pass, then you're able to go into a grocery store and people are going to subconsciously and consciously recognize you as the gender that you are transitioning to rather than the sex you were born as. This is something that's very important to most trans people, I would say, and also it's something that for some reason there's this narrative online that I am constantly talking about this, that every video I'm judging who passes and who doesn't and who that, when the reality is, because I'm not a fan of this topic, passing is probably a word I've used maybe once or twice over the entirety of me being a YouTuber. So regardless, I'm doing this video for the simple fact that it is requested so much on all my platforms, whether it's trans people who are beginning or thinking about transitioning in the throes of it and want advice. And so today we're gonna talk about how to pass as a trans woman from my perspective, from my eyes. Because having transitioned 5 or 6 years ago at this point, I do have quite a bit of knowledge. So we're gonna drop that knowledge today. But disclaimer before we jump in, I have to say, you do not have to give two about passing. This is something that is very unhealthy if you let it consume your head, if you are constantly entering public spaces and questioning, what does this person think of me? What are they saying? Do they know? Can they tell? Like, that's a very unhealthy way of living, and I lived that way at the very beginning of my transition, and it was hell. It was like social anxiety on steroids. So that's my first thing. You don't have to care. If passing is not a priority for you, I'm very, very happy for you because it's a very stressful situation, or rather a very stressful thing to constantly be thinking about. And I can thankfully say at this point in my transition, it is almost never a thought for me. I just don't care anymore. I haven't cared for a very long time. I am who I am. But let's get started with how to pass as a trans woman. So the first and most important factor in passing, in my opinion, and people are probably gonna say this is mumbo jumbo or whatever, energy. Your energy, your way of being, presence, if you will. So before I transitioned physically, we're talking no hormones, no surgery. My name was not even Blaire, honey. I would go out to the mall, go out to grocery stores, whatever, and I would say about 60 to 70% of the time, people would call me she. And this was before I was living my life as a trans woman. I was a little boy. So why would they do that? In my opinion, it was because of my natural sort of feminine energy that I have, just my way of being. My voice also doesn't hurt, obviously. Like, my voice never dropped from puberty. My voice has always been exactly like this. I was just very natural in myself. I think that some trans people get caught up in being performative. Like, how do I have to act as a trans woman for people to think that I'm a woman? And in the reality, just be natural, because you overdoing it and forcing your hips to sway and forcing yourself to walk and talk and move a certain way is not gonna be natural. Now, if you don't believe that your energy and the way you present yourself can give away that you're trans, if you care about giving away that you're trans, think of the GameStop trans.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
I can call the police if you'd like me to. You need to settle down.
You need to settle down and mind your business.
Think of the GameStop trans huffing and puffing in the store, trying to fight people, angry, hulking out, the way that, you know, she was walking, like, because we're talking, I looked 100% like a boy, short hair, like boy clothes, everything. People would still call me she just because of the way that I behaved. So your energy is very important. Hair removal. In the roadmap of transition, this is arguably the most important physical thing. At the end of the day, are there some biological women that grow facial hair? Of course. I see it all the time. I see mustaches on biological women. I see whatever have you. However, on a trans woman, if you're trying to transition to a woman, This is just the most important thing you have to take care of. It is what it is. Please do not assume that makeup is covering it, because at the end of the day, unless you're using heaps of color correctors on the area, like even makeup, you're still gonna see a shadow underneath. So in my opinion, this is the very first thing you have to take care of when it comes to transitioning. In fact, I know a lot of trans people who get all that done, like laser hair removal and electrolysis on their face and stuff, before they even come out as trans, just to get it out of the way as soon as possible. Now, hormones, estrogen, and testosterone blockers that trans women take are not going to get rid of the hair on your face. Please do not wait for years expecting these hormones are going to get rid of the hair on your face. It's not going to happen. May it get slightly thinner? Sure, but it will not get rid of it. However, the good news is hormones do work in conjunction with laser hair removal and make the laser more powerful. So, hormones and laser first. Next, in terms of importance, is voice. So, this is one of those things that people get very sensitive about because it's one of those things that is the hardest to change. If you have a naturally deep voice, you have to consider your options, which are surgery or therapy. Another very big misconception about hormones is people think that it changes your voice. I know trans women that sit up on hormones for years thinking that it's eventually going to change their voice. Never ever will it change your voice. For trans men, testosterone does change their voice. Trans women, estrogen does not. So if you have a naturally deep voice that you are uncomfortable with, you have a few options. You have voice training, for which there are a multitude of resources online. There are YouTube videos, and there are people that you can hire that specialize in feminizing voices. And then there's also surgery. However, the voice feminization surgeries that I have seen from people that I've seen on social media and in person, I would say it's about 50-50 from what I've seen, good and bad results. That might be a bet that you're willing to take if you're on your last resort, but yeah, voice is important. And again, all of this is only if you give a f. Like, you don't have to give a f. Always remember that. Because one of the other very important things to remember is just to accept certain things about you can't change. I'll tell you right now, I have big hands. In my opinion, I have big hands. This is not something you can change. There's no surgery for hand size. Even if there was, that sounds sketchy as hell. I would not do it. And a lot of the tips online you see for passing when it comes to hands is to never get fake nails because it makes the hands look bigger. I don't really give a f. I like fake nails. I like having long nails, and I don't really care. So there are a certain amount of things you just have to accept, and that's part of it as well. Do not listen to your friends or family. No, really. Your friends and your family are lying to you. I'm being dead honest. Every trans person I know has the same story about how all their friends and family, and now even on social media, because social media is such a hug box, and like when it comes to trans people, like you'll have a million comments saying you don't need any surgeries, you don't need to change yourself at all, you look 100% like a girl. They're lying to you. They're trying to make you feel good about yourself. And also when it comes to your friends and family, people that know you personally, surgery scares them. The idea of you going under and getting, whether it's surgery on your face, your breasts, anything else, it scares them. So rather than tell you the truth that maybe this attribute that you could fix with surgery is overly masculine and is not necessarily good for how you present yourself, they will just straight up say you don't need to change it because you're perfect the way you are. Maybe you agree with that. Maybe you don't want to change it. You don't have to. I've been saying this whole video, you don't have to give a f. But also, just know your friends and family are not giving the best opinions. Very good example. When I got surgery on my face, I got my nose and my brow bone done. And every person in my life was saying, you don't need it. Oh my God, like you're being overly critical of yourself. You look like a girl, blah, 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 blah. And in my mind, I was looking at myself in the mirror being like, I'm sorry, but like genetic women don't have a brow bone out to here, girl. They just don't. And it's a very masculine trait, and it affects me and how I feel about myself. So regardless of my friends and family's opinion, I changed it. And guess what? Now they're all like, I totally see why you did that. Like, your face is so much more feminine now. Like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I know. The next thing is clothing. Do not assume that just because you're transitioning to a woman, that any article of clothing that is in the women's section of a clothing store is going to flatter you, look okay, or just be right for you. Because at the end of the day, especially if you are in the midst of your transition, maybe not at the end, you are going to have certain features on your body that are more masculine. So before I got my breasts done, there were certain tops that if I wore them, it just did not look right. I looked like a little cross-dresser. I looked like a little boy trying to look busty who wasn't, and it just didn't work. You need to identify your body shape objectively. Are you an apple shape? Are you a T shape? There's all kinds of shapes online. There's graphs online. You can find which body shape is yours. It'll tell you how to dress based on that body type. And so Although that may seem superficial, at the end of the day, how you dress matters so much. I have seen so many here in LA, maybe like a trans woman on the street who I'm like, if she just wasn't wearing that, it would look like way better and like it would hide maybe that little area that's a little more masculine. You know what I mean? Dressing, clothing is such a big part of it. The next tip is remember that you are your worst critic, honey. Your absolute worst critic. You will beat yourself up. And this is every area in life, really, but especially when it comes to thinking about do you pass, do you not. You will beat yourself up so much. And based on beating yourself up, you may start to present yourself or overdo certain things, or, you know, maybe I need way more makeup because maybe that'll help me. No. Oftentimes, what's simplest is best, if that makes sense. I've seen trans women who, when they transition, they think that they have to jump to this like hyper feminine, like hyper Barbie-esque aesthetic. But at the end of the day, oftentimes it does the opposite and it makes it seem performative. The key is to never be performative. Nothing about me and the way I present myself or how I look, how I dress, none of it is performative. You wake up every day as you. You don't wake up and have to become you. That's a drag queen. That's a cross-dresser. You know what I'm saying? My next tip is giving it time. Give everything time. Do not rush yourself. Do not force yourself into whatever goal you have in your mind for your transition, because at the end of the day, what you want for how you're going to look and for your end result of your transition is going to actually change over time. What I thought I wanted when I first transitioned, I'm thinking back to, 3 years ago when I got my face and my boobs done, that was like step one for me in my mind back then. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get that done, then this, then this, then this, then this, and this, and this, and then I'll be good. In reality, once I got those few things done, my gender dysphoria, which is the cause for all of this and the whole desire to pass and everything, my gender dysphoria, it started disappearing from just those few things that I changed. And I realized, actually, I'm good. I don't need to change everything about myself. Like, I'm good now. So what you want to change now, don't rush into it. Go at a steady, healthy, and level-headed pace, because what you think you want now is not going to be what you want later on. Honestly, those are all my main tips. It's so hard to give broad tips for this because everyone is obviously different, has different bodies, different faces, different ages you transition. It's all very subjective. But those are sort of the very broad steps to transitioning and passing that I think typically work for everyone. With that being said, make sure you guys subscribe to this channel as well as my main channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram because I post on there way more than I do on here. So you gotta follow those to keep up with me and Bella, who you can't see, she's being shy. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.